Dogday is still alive, and in today's video, we're going to be discussing why I think that. We're going to be covering some things that you probably missed in your initial playthrough of Chapter 3, not to mention something that could change the storyline of Poppy Playtime forever. So if that sounds good to you, grab your popcorn and a drink, and let's dive in. So for starters, we eventually come across Dogday in the Playcare, and he is in some rough shape. Obviously, he was supposed to be the leader of the Smiling Critters, and one that wasn't going to go down without a fight. Originally introduced in the Smiling Critters cartoon, Dogday was supposed to be a part of the new toy line, characterized by his orange fur, which complements his expressive black eyes, floppy ears, and that sleek black nose of his. And of course, in line with the other Smiling Critters, Dogday's perpetual wide toothless grin, his inner mouth shrouded in mysterious darkness. And of course, that black zipper that showcases that captivating gold sun pendant surrounded around that radiant orange fur. However, what we now see is something much darker. The thing that we come across inside of the Playcare is now actually a soul living within this toy. This of course is because of the Bigger Bodies initiative, which of course was brought to life by Harley Sawyer, aka the Doctor, in order to deal with the company's ongoing problems, thus experimenting on orphans and employees and eventually leading to the company's downfall as they put them inside of these toys. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, you heard that right. For every Smiling Critter that is either alive or was alive, there is a soul, probably an orphan, inside of them, which makes this story a lot darker than you could have ever imagined playing Chapter 1. We went from being chased from what we thought was just a possessed Huggy Wuggy toy to realizing that this story is a lot darker than we could have imagined. However, going back to the Dogday story, the hour of joy eventually came along and the gang began to drift apart, leaving Dogday as the sole survivor as they went after Catnap. Dogday explains himself that this is what he does to heretics. He also goes into detail about how they tried to fight the prototype's control, which, as we all know, the Catnap looks as the prototype as his god and would do anything, and I mean anything, to make sure that his vision is seen through, including killing his own friends, or in this case even worse, torturing them and leaving them cut in half, hung up in the Playcare for all to watch until the many Smiling Critters feast on his inner flesh. And that is exactly what happens as he's cut mid-sentence as the horde of mini critters come crawling in through the bottom opening of his body, eating away at his flesh as Dogday exclaims for the player to run before his remains fall onto the floor. Now, one thing that I do want you to do here is take note of Dogday's screams. Have a listen to it here.
Just go! Run!
This scream will come into much importance later on in the video. However, a now possessed Dogday begins chasing us throughout the Playcare. This thing is changed completely, wanting nothing but the blood of its enemies. And of course, we now know that we can attribute this to the mini Smiling Critters. Notice his eyes now have a new glow to them. And I believe this is one of the Smiling Critters in each one of them, slowly controlling his mind. But what's really interesting here is the fact that this is more than just a toy. Yes, we initially thought that this was a soul within a toy. However, think about it this way. We have started to see a lot of blood shedding from these toys. Not to mention, in Dogday's case, you can not only see them, but hear the mini Smiling Critters tearing through his organs. So it really makes me wonder if actual bodies were placed inside of these things. And if so, does that mean the once small orphan boy has grown inside of this creature, thus changing the voice that we hear in the soundboard from each of the Smiling Critters cardboard cutouts, and instead turning it into this man? Regardless, which makes this story even worse is the fact that as we just make it out of the clamps of Dogday's hands, we think that this nightmare will be over. However, I think that this story goes a little bit deeper than we could have imagined. My theory is that Dogday is still alive inside of the Playcare, and we'll see him soon enough. Now, this theory can be further proven. For starters, remember when I told you to take note of Dogday's voice as he was screaming while being torn apart by the Smiling Critters? Listen to it closely. Now, compare this exact scream to that of the scream that you hear as the doors closed. Sounds a little bit different, doesn't it? Now this is where things get a little complicated. Obviously that scream that we hear isn't Dogday's. So now the question is, whose is it and why is it important? So if you'll recall, a couple weeks ago I did a video on how I believe Picky Piggy began eating some of her Smiling Critters counterparts. Now, I think that this is obviously due to the fact that there's a lack of food inside of the Playcare, and Dogday himself even admits it when he says that.
These little toys follow Catnap to avoid that very fate, and in return, they are fed.
In return, they are fed. So that means that food is not an easy thing to come across, which brings me to my first theory. My theory is that Picky Piggy, obviously a character that we have not seen just yet up until this point, has some mysterious cardboard cutout lines. And if you listen to them, you'll notice that every character from the Smiling Critters outside of Catnap and Dogday have been accounted for. So I believe that Picky Piggy might have gotten that very last meal, and that meal was dog. If you listen to the scream, or should I say squeal, that is left as the door closes, I believe that that could also prove it. Now, of course, we can also play devil's advocate here. My idea behind this is that mob games would not introduce these amazingly cool characters known as the Smiling Critters if they didn't intend on showing them at least once. Now, you could make the argument that they've done similar things in the past with Cat B and of course Brawn the Dinosaur, and maybe we will get an ARG episode released on their YouTube channel a little bit later on in the year. However, I think this squeal is a little too significant to think otherwise. I think that the squeal is actually either Picky Piggy, like I said, eating Dogday, or my second theory. Now, my second theory is that Picky Piggy eventually came across her friend Dogday and saves him from the Smiling Critters who are eating out his insides. Thus, the squeal is actually her attacking the mini Smiling Critters and not Dogday himself, which would mean that this is not the end of Dogday just yet. And I believe that this could even be further proven, as in the Poppy Playtime Partners Discord, a lot of people have been discussing the fact that mob games themselves have posted renders of Dogday after the release of Chapter 3. Meaning that he could potentially be in Chapter 4. And if that's the case, then that changes the story of Chapter 4 completely. We would have to figure out what happened to Kissy Missy. We'd have to figure out what is going on with Dogday. Not to mention the big elephant in the room. Who is the prototype? Who is Ollie? And are these two one of the same? This is leading up to one of the most insane chapters in Poppy Playtime history. Not to mention, we just came away from the scariest chapter in Poppy Playtime history. So whatever mob games is cooking up, I'm definitely excited for it, and you already know that they've not only released a new Roblox game, but in addition to that are going to be cooking up different ARGs that are going to be coming out throughout the year. And if this is true and what they're saying in the Discord is actually going to come into fruition, then we should be seeing Chapter 4 before the end of 2024. So ladies and gentlemen, this wraps up this episode of Poppy Playtime Theory videos, and if you do want to see more specific theories, do me a huge favor. Go ahead and comment them in the comment section down below. I'll heart some of my favorite ones and maybe even throw a poll on the YouTube channel. So I just want to thank you guys again for all the support. I'm going to wrap up here and thank you. Until next time, peace out!